Well, hello, gentlemen. What's up?
What is up?
Hey. Good to be back. I am whiskey in hand and ready to talk some metal and rock and whiskey.
Yeah,
That's good, because that's what we do here.
it's a new season.
Hence the name. Yes, it is. Ready to
It's a
kick
new
off season 3.
Woo woo! Season 3. Wow. Can you believe it?
Which I feel like it should really be season 4.
It should. We could have cut that first one up a little bit.
Our first season went a couple years, but that's all right.
Couple years and 80 episodes.
It's pretty much season 4, technically.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it's good to be back. It's good to see your faces, fellas. It's good to be with all our listeners again. It's a new year. Dun,
Yes,
dun,
it is.
dun.
Goodbye 2020 and hello 2021.
Fuck yeah.
2020, the sequel?
Don't say that.
I don't know.
Knock
2021 just doesn't. I kind of liked 2020. It was nice round. It was good to write out and everything else.
Yeah,
it's just too bad that year sucked.
Yeah, fuck that year. 6 days in, and it looks like, yeah.
The year is still young. And it's still very, very young.
Is.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's let it breathe a bit.
There's going to be some overlap. There's not going to be a definite delineation there. There's going to be a little overlap, so it'll be all right.
Correct. Yes.
Very true.
All right, let's stop talking about that.
Yeah, let's stop talking about that shit.
Yeah.
Matt, you got any current music news for us?
I have a couple things, and we just talked about some depressing stuff, but
let's talk about more depressing stuff.
Let's talk about a death.
Okay, great.
Yes,
let's talk about lots of them.
You guys like Children of Bodom?
A little bit.
A little bit. They're pretty. They're pretty cool.
Did you say Children of Bodom?
Yes.
Not Bottom.
The band. No, Bottom, like BODOM.
Oh, like bottom, like I don't know, the bottom of the barrel or the bottom.
The bottom of the barrel children. Fuck those kids.
Anyway,
yeah, their lead singer and lead guitarist Alexi Leho, I believe you pronounce his last name, passed away at the tail end of I guess on the 30th or 31st, from undisclosed illness that he had been battling. Only 41. Way too young. Yep. They're I guess you would categorize them. I don't know how power metal.
I think so.
Kind of
fair.
Melodic metal, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I like them. They're from Finland. They were part of that, sort of, mid '90s sort of Scandinavian metal scene that was going on. Mid to late '90s, like Volbeat, all those guys came about the same time. So always seems like there's one of these deaths at the end of every year. In the music industry, in the metal industry, and it just sucks. It really sucks. I was a fan of theirs, and he'll be missed.
Well, we'll definitely have a drink to Alexi, but we have some fun kind of music /
some very fun news.
Yeah. Who if you haven't seen this, we're going to spoil something for you. Too bad.
It really doesn't lend to the show at all, really, that much as far as spoilers go. But friend of the show, friend of Sailor here, Mr. D. Snyder, the one and only. If any of you out there are fans of the Netflix Smash series Cobra Kai, which we all are, D makes a fantastic cameo appearance in the show, performing, of course, as he does best. When he's not advocating on Twitter, supporting, music and, anti-censorship and all that stuff. Yes. So a really great cameo. And of course he took to Twitter to talk about it and mentioned that he was honored to be part of that gang. So really cool stuff. What did you think? I know, Ed, you haven't watched it yet, but Sailor,
I am way behind.
Without giving any spoilers away, Stiller, what did you think of season 3?
There's a part I want to talk about that's so funny that I'll spoil it, so I won't, I guess. But I think it's awesome because Johnny would have totally listened to Twisted Sister, when he was a teenager. I'm absolutely certain that's what he would be blasting, from his car. I thought it was so funny because it was a throwback. For sure, these kids would not be going to see Dee Snider live, I assume, which, is a shame. But, I just thought it was such a great throwback to the original, the time period of the original movies. Dee was hilarious. It was so cute because it must have been the next day I was on Twitter and saw him posting some candids of him with the cast of the show, of Dee with the cast of the show, and just saying like, yeah, now I've really arrived. He made an appearance on Cobra Kai. It was just so great. It was amazing. All the people that came back for this season is mind-blowing.
No spoilers. Yeah.
Hurry up and see it.
And who they tease someone at the end too for next season.
They did.
Yes. So yeah, I mean they do such a nostalgia can be overdone sometimes and it gets stale. As much as we love it, but they have done such a great job of finding that perfect balance between the nostalgia that we all love and keeping it super fresh. And they hit another home run for me.
Absolutely. Oh my God, they totally did. It was very, very well done. So yeah.
Yes. Watch it.
Awesome. So before we talk about tonight's topic, and again, not to be a bummer, but our whiskey fabric is really important to us. And I recently lost a friend very tragically, Mike Thompson, and he was a huge whiskey lover and a big supporter of myself and of the show. I got to see him, thank God, last year because he lives in Cincinnati. That's where I met him on my trip back. And I'm so grateful I did and spoke to him a little bit before New Year's. He was a very decorated firefighter and paramedic. I believe it was 24 years on the job with the Cincinnati Fire Department. He's an amazing father, a wonderful husband. Just an absolute, you ever meet people that just right away you can tell they're just so genuine and wonderful and kind, and they there's a spirit about them. I don't know how else to describe Mike, but he was just amazing. The first time I met him, he came to a whiskey tasting of mine, and he would always stay after. A group of guys would stay after and have dinner, and we'd all sit down together and, we'd talk about whiskey. And we started talking about music in the 80s. And he's like, oh, I was a DJ when I was in college. And, everybody's like, oh, I was a DJ. But he actually was a DJ and kept all of his original vinyl. So he had entire basement full of it. So the next time I had a whiskey tasting in the area, he shows up with a piece of vinyl for me. And it was Diggable Planets. We had gotten into this discussion about it. And I was just like, wow, you meet someone once and you mention something and they remember it and bring you a gift like that. It was just really, that's who he was. And I was supposed to be at this event last year back in Cincinnati again at this wonderful library called the Mercantile Library, one of the oldest libraries in the country. It's an amazing place. And Sherry Moore, the director of whiskey production for Uncle Nearest, was giving a talk on kind of this historic part of whiskey and talking about the story of Uncle Nearest. And I couldn't be there because the date got changed. And so I had messaged Mike and said, I'm so sad that I can't be there. And he just took pictures for me all night and was sending me messages all night. And he got to meet Sherry, and he was so excited to meet Sherry. And he was just such a great guy. So, I got through it without crying. It's a big loss for me. It really devastated me. But he left behind him so many people that he touched. And so I just want to make a toast to Mike Thompson, who is one of the best humans I've ever known. So cheers to Mike.
Cheers to Mike. Never met him, but if that's your endorsement, then I feel like it's well deserved.
Absolutely.
So
Any friend of yours is a friend of ours.
That's right.
Thank you so much. So on that note, let's listen to a little bit of music so that I can compose myself again, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
All right.
So, Matt, before you take it away with what everyone's drinking tonight, I'm just going to talk about what I'm drinking since I already had a sip and did my toast. I thought it was fitting that I should be drinking some blackened whiskey tonight. I am drinking Batch 100. The first bottle that I purchased with my then fiance and now husband to have our toast on the day of our wedding. So we got married in this tiny little, it's an old chapel, but it's like they have like AA meetings there now, but it looks super cute. So we just had it just as a piece, and our photographer and his wife, it was just us, a small affair. And so we had the Blackens sitting there at the quote unquote altar and did a toast with our justice of the peace and our friends right after we got married. So I'm not drinking from that bottle because that bottle we save for our anniversaries. And then this Batch 100 was the special release that we purchased on our 1-year anniversary. And we're both drinking it tonight. We're not allowed to drink it without each other. So this was the box set that I got, if you guys remember. So you get the vinyl picture discs too, which is just so cool, of the playlist for this batch. And what I purchased it before I knew what the playlist was. So it's Blackened, Creeping Death, The Unforgiven, Disposable Heroes, Fade to Black, Whiplash, and Justice for All, Leper Messiah, Battery. I was just like, yeah, that's a
solid list.
They kept it old school for you.
I know. I was so excited. I'm like, oh no, it's gonna be all this new stuff that I don't really like.
It's like Fuel, Until It Sleeps, like all the load stuff.
And this was Rob's playlist, so that was also really freaking cool.
Awesome.
So you get the vinyl, you get a guitar pick, and you get this little zine that comes with it. Yeah, no, I just thought it was so great the way they did this. It's absolutely delicious. I love it. So that's what I'm sipping on tonight.
Nice. I love it. That's awesome.
Cool.
Cheers to that.
What about you guys?
All right.
Ed?
Me? Okay. It's been a while, but I felt this would be a great time to debut my my new acquisition on this show. Very apropos, as you will see.
I think I know what it is.
I don't.
I found 1.75 liter bottle of Larceny. So this should last me at least a few episodes.
Yeah, right. I better be gone by the end of this. No.
If you guys are wondering why we're laughing so hard at Larceny, if you're an old school listener of this podcast, you get it right away. But it's kind of an inside joke with us. I don't know if we explain it if it's funny.
Hey, this is the good end of the Edometer.
That is the good end of the Edometer. That's true. Oh, we'll have to, God, remind me to post that Edometer again. That's fine.
I think a couple episodes ago we replaced Slayer with Slipknot as the bad end.
And then you replaced Slipknot with Under Oath.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, which I just posted on
so I think we should
Instagram.
put Slayer, Slipknot, Under Oath, Because then we can have like different levels of red. You know?
They have orange and they're kind of
Right,
reddish.
exactly.
The USS Edometer under Oath Slayer Slipknot.
But yeah, I am really enjoying this. It's like I said, it's been a little while since I've had one of these bottles, and it's a welcome return to the stable.
Nice. Yeah, it's been
So
a long time.
let me ask you something. Do you obviously, when you go back to a bottle from not having it for a long time, your palate changes. You've had so many things in between. Is there anything that you're picking up on this since the last time you had it? Just curious.
Funny you should say that. I remember I got a lot of peanut on it before. I'm not getting so much this time. I'm getting a little bit, this is going to sound weird, a little bit of a funk kind of a note that I get from like the Willet pot still. I don't know what it is, but there's something about there that I really like about that. That's one of the things that I really like about Willet pot still. I know that's kind of a polarizing one. Either people seem to love it or hate it.
See that funk you're talking about? I don't like it on the Willet.
So, but there's something in here that's very similar. I'm picking up a similar note that I'm really, really digging.
Because I know, I mean, you've had barrel proof stuff in between. You've had all this other stuff, so it's curious. I always like to ask when you go back to something.
Yeah, and it's 92 proof, which, it's not, granted, I've had much higher. I've had, my Jack Daniel's barrel proof, it's 130 something, and, but still, 92, it's a great sipper,
I'm glad, excuse me, my allergies are so horrific, so I apologize. You bring something up that's interesting, Matt, which I would like to kind of go down a rabbit hole. I think we should do on a show upcoming about tasting. So I woke up this morning to an article from Michael Veach, who I just love his subjects and the way he tackles subjects. And he wrote an article, and you can go to Bourbon Veach, that's VEACH.com to read this article. And he's kind of attacking the question, Matt, I'm sure you get this. I get this constantly. What's your favorite whiskey? And we all usually answer free whiskey.
Yeah.
But I usually say, well, on what day? At what time?
Yeah, or depends on my mood.
What have I eaten? Where am I? What's my environment? Mm-hmm. And people kind of look at you like, "Brr," but that's a real thing. And he also recently, it's another article that he talked about professional tasting and how really irresponsible it is that for awards, these master tasters can only taste at one time. So you've just had 50,000 other whiskeys on your palate, and you're supposed to judge a whiskey. Your palate is exhausted. If you're drinking high proof, you may have burned out your palate at that point, after 3-4 of them. It's just so unfair. I think they should be given a month to go through all of them and really be able to replicate the same conditions, the same time of day, what they've eaten, whatever, if you really want to be fair about it. But anyway, the discussion of going back to something. So you hear people who drink a lot of whiskey say sometimes, well, this is the first time I've had this, and I didn't really like it so much, but I'm going to go back to it. And the reason typically that we say that is because it could be that what we ate today doesn't pair well with that whiskey, or I have a cold, or it's summer and I'm going to like that better in winter, or I'm exhausted, or it's too early, or the color of the walls is wrong. I mean, this really all affects taste. I think that my experience, and the reason I brought this up is I want to ask you guys, I feel like there are a few whiskeys that I drink so often that I don't really experience that anymore because I just know that taste and that flavor so much. Kind of like French fries. You can give me French fries for breakfast. You can give me French fries when I have the stomach flu and I'm still going to want to eat them. You can give me French fries anytime and there's still going to be French fries. And there are several whiskeys that for me are the same because I drink them so often. Do you guys feel the same way?
I don't think I've thought about it in those terms before. No, I can't say that I really thought about it like that. I know each time I come back to a whiskey, I think I mix it up enough. I try not to drink the same thing more than maybe a couple times in, a couple of weeks. I tend to rotate through my collection, so maybe I just don't give myself enough chance to get to that point. But how about you, Matt? I'll let you answer. Right.
Partly yes and partly no. I mean, I think there's some bottles that when I go back to them after a short period or a long period of time, I know exactly what I'm going to get. Like something, like most things from Glenmorangie, which I've rotated through several times. Something like Glenfiddich 12 year, which I know is one of Sailor's favorite. I know exactly what I'm getting when I go back to that. Very little variation, but I'm with you too, Ed. I don't rotate that quickly through the stuff. So
the Glenfiddich 12 is definitely one of those that although I will say I actually hadn't had it in quite a while, and I ate something that night that just was perfect with it. But I was aware as I'm drinking, I'm like, ooh, I'm having a good taste night. Like I said that, like my palate is just perfect right now for this. And I just got all this amazing magical stuff from it, just in highlighted, I guess I would say. But I know that that's going to taste super similar to me every time I drink it because I'm just so familiar with that taste profile. I can't say that about a lot of other whiskeys. Sometimes they'll taste wildly different for me, depending on what's
There are very
going.
few that hit a home run for me every single time. Very few.
And you bring up a point, something I've been really thinking about lately, just coincidentally, that really relates to what you said. It's the whole idea of reviewing whiskey. I don't know if I want to say I have a problem with it. I mean, because that's maybe not the right way to say it, but I don't put as much credence in whiskey reviews as I used to, just for all the reasons that you illustrated. Because every time you taste a whiskey, it's a very personal experience.
Yes.
So
subjective. And you
right.
can look at literally just take 3 whiskeys and search reviews, and you will find good reviews, and I mean really good reviews, and then really horrible reviews equally. So what's the point?
It doesn't matter the whiskey. Yeah.
And I don't want to throw shade on anyone. I've got good friends that review whiskey in social media and everything, and great. More power to them. I'll watch their content. But personally, what I tend to do, I tend to kind of gloss over a lot of the reviews and hone in on, did you like it or not?
What about see, for me, I just focus on the tasting notes. And I think that's why most people, I'm assuming that I think that's why most people read these reviews, is they're looking for the tasting notes and to help them pick out flavors, right?
Sure.
So, and sometimes I might do that, like, oh, this is so weird. I'm tasting something weird in it. I've gone back to it a bunch of times. I might Google just to see if anybody else has tasted that, but not whether I don't care whether they like it or not. That's the part where I'm like, don't give a shit, because I don't know, we're different people. I might love it, they might hate it. We're both right,
You shouldn't let that affect your decision.
Right.
No. Well, I didn't finish my thought, but whether they like, I tend to say, okay, hone in on that point. Then I take that in aggregate. Basically, I try to see, do most of the people that I follow like this or not like this? Because it tends to be that if the majority of the people actually like it, then I'll probably like it too. And most of them don't like it. And there are exceptions, of course, with everything. But I think for me, that's a more of an accurate way of gauging whether I should buy a bottle or not. Just my thought.
It's interesting. I don't find that. I don't know. I think also my palate changes. My palate is maturing the longer I drink whiskey. And unfortunately, there's going to be a point where when I get to a certain age where my palate is declining, and that's just human physiology. But a lot of things that I was in love with 5 years ago, I know that I'm not so in love with it anymore. I've gone back to things that I have a whiskey journal and I go back to it and look at it and just like, yeah, nope. And I often wonder if it's because your palate expands the more you work with your palate. And for my job and my career, I do that. And so I wonder if sometimes I'm picking up the things now, more things I don't like that I didn't taste before because my palate was not as trained as it is now. And perhaps that's the problem. Or I'm gone to things that, well, I'll tell you, price point makes a difference, right? So I have been working with premium whiskey, whether it be American whiskey or Scotch for so long now that there is a difference with premium whiskey, whatever whiskey that may be. And so it does create a level of expectation. I mean, there are fabulous lower shelf whiskeys that are my daily drinkers, but that'll change your palate too.
You don't think that part of it could be that whiskey has actually changed over time as well?
No, I don't think so, because what I'm drinking now I'm probably drinking pretty much the same thing as I was 2 years ago, depending on what it is. It's not that big of a difference. I mean, certainly the flavor of whiskey is changing, absolutely. And of course, that's why age statements are dropping in American whiskey. And, we're blending more than we were because it's not such a bad word. And we've got American single malts now, and things are being aged for a shorter period of time. And we've got experimental stuff like barrel finishes. Absolutely. But your palate does change and evolve. And I mean, we make a joke that, I can tell if someone is like, oh my God, my favorite whiskey is Basil Hayden's. I know that if I ask them, they're going to say they really started getting into whiskey about a year ago or 2 years ago, maybe the most. And nothing against Basil Hayden's, but I do tell them, that's great. Get to know that spirit. And at some point you're going to move beyond that and be really surprised what else is out there besides Maker's Mark and Basil Hayden. And what's the
Angel's
other one?
Envy.
Thank you. So I don't know. It's such an interesting topic, so subjective, and there's so many varying factors that I don't know. It's a rabbit hole I could go down forever.
Yeah. Not to shit on you Angel's Envy drinkers out there, but if I want maple syrup, I'll go to the grocery store and save $40 or so.
But not to shit on you Angel's Envy
yes.
drinkers.
Okay. Sorry.
I actually happen to like Angel's Envy, so
I'm sorry.
You don't have to be sorry. That's your opinion.
I shoot pretty straight with my customers too. So, and Sailor, if there's one thing that I want people to look past, and I've said it before, we've talked about this ad nauseum, like the age stuff, look past it. Because what I tell people, with youth sometimes comes vibrancy. And I think that with the American single malts is a perfect example of that. Yep. If you put it 2 years, 3 years, whatever, youth breeds vibrancy, and you can taste it. And that's the big thing. Just taste it.
Yeah, and it really depends on the whiskey. I mean, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like rye is such a green grain, and I feel like it's so, depending on the yeast you're using with it, but it can be so acidic and so savory that I tend to like rye whiskeys that are aged more than young rye whiskeys. I don't feel that way about bourbon, though. I certainly don't feel that way about American single malts, although I do feel that way about Scotch. I think that if you aren't doing a lot of barrel finishing and things like that, that whiskey just gets more interesting with age. And there's so many reasons why. But I'm not talking about a 30-year Scotch. I'm talking about 15 years, 12, 14 years, But yeah, the age statements, I would be happy to see them all go away. And that is not a popular opinion at all with most whiskey drinkers. And I don't give a shit, because I would like people to judge the whiskey based on what it tastes like and not what is written on the label.
Mm-hmm. I've even heard people advocating for putting an average age on a bottle if it's blended, but
you're doing that anyway, though. because you have to put your youngest year on there anyway. So, I mean, it's the same thing with the mash bill. I mean, I know people are curious, but to judge the whiskey on a mash bill is absolutely ridiculous. I'd rather see the yeast strain. Explain the yeast strain to me, because I'm going to get more indication of flavor from that than a mash bill any day.
Yeah, it's got 33% rye. Yeah. It's got 33% rye. I don't like rye, so I'm not going to like it. Like, I mean, come on.
Exactly.
I've heard this before. Wait, yes.
Me too. I know. Same thing.
Yeah.
Tennessee whiskey, I don't like Jack Daniels. Well, great. Good for you. First of all, which Jack Daniels do you not like? Because there are many Jack Daniels and they don't all taste the same.
Exactly.
That's true.
Also, all Tennessee whiskey does not the same. Then say that about bourbon. Then say that about Scotch. Say that about anything else. Say that about, I don't like wine because I didn't like this wine. Okay. Wine from which country, which region, what style? Yeah. I think we would do better to take away the snobbery. And I think that the age statement is absolutely snobbery. I mean, the reason why we put an age statement on our whiskey was absolutely and totally fair and needed to happen back in the day when things weren't regulated like they are now. But, that time is over. We need to just focus on, what it tastes like, the quality of it, and not worry about mash bills and age statements. It's just ridiculous.
Now, do you think part of that is people feel like it adds to the perceived value, as in the price point they're paying?
Yes.
Because I think someone would feel like they're getting a better value if they go out and pay $60 or $80 for a 12-year whiskey, as opposed to $60 or $80 for maybe a 4-year whiskey.
Yes, and I experienced that working for a craft distillery when I was in Ohio. I mean, I can tell you that this whiskey they're making, there's nothing like it in the world. We have the second oldest copper pot still in the world, and the oldest one still in use. It's going to create a unique flavor you can't replicate. There's no arguing that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, their process is so old. It's so unique and different. It is absolutely not. You can't make big volumes of whiskey with this. You can only make very small volumes. So you're going to get very small batches. All of those factors make this whiskey very different. It's also not efficient to make whiskey like this. Therefore, it's very expensive. And it's all hand done. And I mean, literally, really hand done. We have one heat gauge and that's it. So that whiskey is going to be more expensive and it's worth it. 100%. And it's going to be half the age of something on the shelf next to it at the same price. But if you compare the flavor of the two and understand the difference in the merits, you know that craft whiskey is worth that much.
Absolutely. Well said. It's like, why is this $60? It's grain to glass. They grow all of their grain. They harvest it, mash it, distill it. Pot still, which is a bitch, as we all know.
It's slow. The stills only heat up to a certain point. They also do an open fermentation. They have no computers. They have no gauges. The only modern thing they do is they pump in and out the water. That's literally the only modern thing they do. They mill their own grain still. I mean, it's crazy. So
that's why. Yep. I'd rather spend my money on something like that.
Yes. Yeah. And again, it comes down to the taste and the flavor, and I tell people all the time, you can typically go in and ask, at your liquor store, hey, do you happen to have such and such open, or are you willing to open up one of them so that I can taste it? I know this is a little different with COVID now, depending on what state you're in, but typically that's what you can do. And there's tasting events all over the place. If you get the opportunity, taste the whiskey. If you're not sure, it's one purchase, and you don't like it. Okay. You don't like it. I've purchased bottles that were expensive and had all the hoo-ha and the hype, and I've been so disappointed. It happens.
Yep.
Away.
Great discussion.
So I'm drinking. I'll make it quick. It's something I've had a few times, but I finally got a bottle as a gift for Christmas, and it's the Old Forester 1920 Prohibition.
Oh,
yeah.
That takes me back to an earlier episode. So we
Yeah,
talked about that.
that's one of my big favorites. Speaking of gifts, I almost forgot to tell you guys this amazing story. I was gifted 2 bottles of whiskey over the holidays.
Nice.
I was given, my husband and I, because he is so fantastic at, he works with me, and we've just had a great relationship with this local liquor store that's just absolutely wonderful. And they decided to give us a gift for Christmas and said, well, what's your favorite whiskey other than Uncle Nearest? And my husband, being the very smart man that he is, looked over and saw a bottle of Yamazaki 12 and said, Yamazaki 12. And it was the only one on the shelf.
Oh.
No, really, I got him into Japanese whiskey. We both love Japanese whiskey. So we were gifted that bottle and it did not disappoint. I'll tell you. And I'll talk about that another time. And then I was given, so I get the mail one day and a box arrives and it has no return address. I open it up. I can tell it's from one of these companies that ships you the whiskey, but there wasn't any information in there. It's a bottle of Jack Daniels, Old Number 7. And I'm like, what? Who sent me this? I don't care for Old Number 7.
Okay.
Gentleman Jack is okay. The single barrel is amazing. But it's pretty known that I don't care for Earl Number 7. But
the highest of highs,
someone
the
sent
lowest
me a
of
bottle
lows.
of it. I'm like, okay, I think it's sitting on my shelf, and I look at it every once in a while. I've asked tons of people, and everybody's like, no, that's kind of weird. And I don't know. I mean, it's very wonderful to receive a gift of whiskey.
Sure.
We're going to drink it, but I just thought it was so strange to get an anonymous bottle of whiskey.
Huh. The only thing I could maybe make a guess, there got to be some kind of the Jack Daniels Uncle Nearest tie-in between that whole story. Maybe someone thought it'd be nice to give you a bottle of Jack. I don't know.
Why don't I know who it's from? It's so
I don't know. That's
strange.
weird.
It's really weird. Well, all right. Enough of that shit. Let's get into our discussion of the night, because we have a pretty big announcement of what is coming and how we are going to kick off season 3, year 4 of this podcast. But first, let's listen to a little bit of music, shall we?
Well, if that didn't give it away.
Okay, so all right, let's explain a little bit first.
Yeah.
So if you're new to the show, I'll tell the story once again. Sorry for those who have heard it already. I posted on Instagram many years ago now, asking the question, it was Ride the Lightning versus Master Puppets, right? I'm pretty sure. I said, which I can't decide if I have to choose I can't decide which album is better. If I have to choose the ultimate Metallica album, is it Ride the Lightning or Master Puppets? And it was something that I want. And then I think I said, what whiskey would you drink with it? And it just exploded and tons of people responded to it. And it was mostly all my whiskey friends. And I was like, oh, great. Look at all these metalheads in my whiskey friends too. This is awesome. I was so super excited. And it just sparked a discussion and a debate and lots of arguing. And it gave me the idea to start this podcast. So the podcast begins because of Metallica. My love of metal is because of Metallica. So that's that. That's how that works. I've always wanted to pair whiskey with a song or an album or an artist. And so it's been fun to be able to do that through the years. And so we were going to start off the whole podcast having this discussion, which album is better, and kind of going down the rabbit hole. Well, we did record those episodes first, and they never made them onto our podcast stream because we were very new at this, and we drank a little too much every time we recorded, and then one recording got corrupted. Something happened to it. So we called it the curse of Metallica for a long time.
Yeah, it was the beginning of this podcast and also almost the end of this podcast as well.
True.
Yes.
This is true. So we started out in the fall. So next year, we finally attacked the subject. But we didn't attack it quite as in depth as we had really wanted to originally. Also, it became a very polarizing discussion, and I got into a lot of very, very heated arguments on the social medias about my take on Lars, which started the whole joke about the fuck you Lars, which I just want to say was a joke.
Yes.
And just kind of ripping apart certain things. But, this is a podcast. It's not serious. We're not doing brain surgery here. I'm like, who am I? Who cares what I say about music? I didn't really think people were going to get as upset as they did. And let me tell you, my friends, they did. I got a lot of hate mail for some of the things that I said about some of these albums. So really what we're going to do is we're going to do a look back, number one, and we're going to dive deeper as we had originally wanted to into classic Metallica. So just to be clear, we're going to talk about classic Metallica, and that means Kill 'Em All to the Black Album. We'll do a little short discussion about what would be more contemporary Metallica, but we're really going to focus on classic Metallica because that's all kind of our wheelhouse. So we're going to do a couple of shows on this. It's going to be a series, and we really want you guys to join us in this. And so Matt, who is the master of our Instagram account, is going to do polls with each show, and we're going to be doing some giveaways as well. And we're going to have a really cool guest join us at some point in the series. So this is us kicking off the series and kicking off our new season. So before we talk a little bit about how we all felt about the first time we attempted this, let's just go through the classic albums really quick and just give you a sense of what was going on in music at the time. So we're going to talk about Kill 'Em All first, which was released in June 25th of 1983. So what else in metal was released in this year? You had Holy Diver from Dio, Peace of Mind from Iron Maiden, Quiet Riot's Metal Health, Ozzy's Bark at the Moon, and Def Leppard's Pyromania. I mean, hello.
God damn.
Yeah. That was a
it was
good year.
Good time to be a metalhead, let me tell you.
Yes, it was.
And just also to give you kind of a sense of what else was going on in that year. We had Hurricane Alicia, which sadly hit the coast of Texas and killed 21 people. It was a direct hit on Galveston and Houston, if you guys remember that. It was really nuts. Well, I guess, Ed, if you remember that. Not Matt. The United States invaded Grenada. Alrighty then. We had a space mission, which was the STS-7. And then we had, let's see what else. Mario Brothers game debuted. Dun, dun, dun. We also had Fraggle Rock debut on HBO. I think I loved Fraggle Rock more as a college kid than a child for, many reasons. Fashion was pretty freaking snazzy. Let's see. You had lots of shoulder pads, lots of oversized women's suits. We were all wearing leg warmers. That was definitely me with everything. The thermal boots were in style. those 80s snow boots.
Oh, the moon boots.
Yes. And then toys. So,
Oh, don't forget the members only jackets.
oh yeah, yeah. See and Say was super popular. If you were a little itty bitty kid, and the glowworm.
Oh, yeah.
Also, Cabbage Patch Kids were still all the rage. Jesus, those things. There was an earthquake in New York City, 5.2 on the Richter scale.
Damn.
That's really, what else happened?
Was See and Say, is that a prequel to like Speak and Spell? Was that kind of the
Oh.
same family? Yeah.
That was also the year that I was introduced to and became interested in metal and hard rock.
All right. Yeah, same for me. So the first mobile phones were released this year as well, and that was by the Motorola company. It was a literal battery pack that you had to carry around with a strap. Sally Ride, I didn't realize it was this year. Sally Ride became the first American woman in space on June 18th. And unfortunately, Margaret Thatcher won a landslide victory in the elections in the UK. Star Wars Return of the Jedi came out that year.
Mhm.
Superman 3, Tootsie, Trading Places, War Games. Hell yeah. Flashdance, Staying
Would you
Alive,
like to play a game?
Octopussy, National Lampoon's Vacation, and Yentl. So there you go. That's the year of 1983. That's the year Ed and I started listening to metal, apparently.
Yeah, bringing back a lot of memories mentioning all those things.
I was definitely well-formed at this point in what I liked, for sure, musically. So last time we discussed this, we all agreed that we liked Kill 'Em All. We agreed that we felt, as it was an incredible first release for sure. We agreed that the band was still a little bit green. And we ended up choosing Ride the Lightning over Kill 'Em All when we had to put them up against each other. So before I move on to Ride the Lightning, do you guys still feel like you would vote the same way?
I do feel like I'll still vote the same way. I do feel like I appreciate Kill 'Em All more now than I did then, since I've had a lot more time to listen to it. Because I think that back when we did that first battle, that was I actually went out and I bought the album, and that was the first time I'd ever listened to that album from front to back. But that album has definitely grown on me a lot since. But overall, I think I would still go Lightning. Although it's a much closer now than it would have been at that point.
What about you, Matt?
I would still go Ride the Lightning. I agree with. I still love Kill 'Em All. It's still one of my favorite albums ever. Anything, but there's just that unbelievable progression in their maturity and their music that will, after Ride the Lightning hit an all-time high. But it's that change from just 1 year, from 83 to 84, that is just mind-boggling to me. So I mean, that progression, I always have to go Ride the Lightning. I always have to go the album after, at least in that first arc of their career. So I would still pick Ride the Lightning, definitely.
All right. So speaking of Ride the Lightning, that was released in July 27th of 1984. Also, Judas Priest's Defender of Faith was released, Van Halen's 1984, Iron Maiden's Power Slave, Twisted Sister, Stay Hungry, and Anthrax Fistful of Metal. So if you wanted to buy a brand new house in 1984, it would cost you about $86,000. If you wanted to buy a gallon of milk, it would have been about $1.10. let's see what else happened this year. We had the Apple Macintosh commercial computer, and personal computer, and it went on sale in January of 1984. So we also had Band-Aid, not the actual Band-Aid, but the concert. Do you remember that Band-Aid? Woo, that was huge. That's where the "Do They Know It's Christmas Time" came. That's where that came from. Then it was agreed that Hong Kong would go back to China in 1997, although it didn't happen until a little bit later. So there was the famous Summer Olympics in 1984, and it was that's a whole other discussion. It's a huge discussion. It has a lot to do with at the time, our still Cold War with Russia. The beauty queen killer was captured. I remember that. That was kind of, we had our first untethered spacewalk happen. And then fashion, once again, pretty similar. I think the only thing I would say different in fashion at this point is that there is a lot of shit back from the 1920s that came back into fashion. Everybody had their game watches. Remember those, Ed? Your big fat square game watches.
Oh, the little Pac-Man or whatever on it. Yeah. Yes. Yep. and the calculator watch.
And the calculator watch. Yep. They were very big watches.
And Swatch watches.
I had like 20,000 of those. I wanted them in every color. And then toys, My Little Damn Pony. I was never a My Little Pony fan, but my little sister was. So they were all over the house, and God forbid you ever touched one. There would be hell to pay.
No, there were no bronies in those days.
Okay, so we talked about...
Wait, you were forgetting an extremely earth-shattering important event from 1984.
Ghostbusters came out?
Hi.
Oh, Matt
joined the world.
Me, yeah.
Yay, and of course... Ghostbusters, and Matt was born.
Yes.
You also had Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and Matt was born. Gremlins, Beverly Hills Cop, The Karate Kid, and Matt was born. Romancing the Stone, Police Academy, Splash, The Terminator, Lord, once again.
Amadeus. Anyone cares
Good year
about?
for movies too. Oh, great movie.
Yeah.
Oh
That was that. Yeah, you're right. That was actually an amazing movie. Absolutely. So, Ride the Lightning, when I listened back to our initial episode, we felt that the progression of the band, Matt, as you had said, was just it was just so incredible that we all had to go with Ride the Lightning. And so let me play a little clip, actually, from our past series of us having this discussion.
It's like they are either so far above everybody else in thrash.
Well, they were,
or if you are looking at the other three as great thrash, then to me, you look at this Metallica album, and if you're trying to qualify it as thrash, then it's not. So it's one or the other to me. And to me, I like to think of it as thrash done well.
Yes. So we were all unanimous on that. There was no argument there that we would have chosen Ride the Lightning, and I was having a difficult time parting with one song off of Kill 'Em All, and that was Seek and Destroy, which I still feel the same way. So then we discussed Master of Puppets, which was released in March of 1986. Also released was Megadeth's Peace Sells But Who's Buying, Slayer's Rain in Blood, Ozzy's Ultimate Sin, and Iron Maiden's Somewhere in Time. So I made it clear the last time that Master of Puppets is the ultimate album for me of Metallica, and probably the ultimate metal album ever, I would say. Um, I don't think that's ever going to change. I don't think anything is going to change that view. But let's talk about real quick before we go into that, what was going on in the year of 1986. So if you wanted to buy 5 pounds of potatoes, they were $1. A jar of Skippy peanut butter was $1.49. And a Ford Mustang was $7,000.52. All right. The Chernobyl explosion happened this year, which was a hell of a thing. And the Space Shuttle Challenger, unfortunately, as well, disintegrated after 73 seconds after launching, killing everyone on board, which was awful. The Oprah Winfrey Show was debuted, which was a really big deal. Having a Black woman hosting a primetime talk show was pretty incredible. Still is. Hands Across America happened. I did not participate. Ed, did you participate?
God, I'm trying to remember. I remember it going on, but I can't actually remember if I did or not. Is that terrible? But
a lot of schools organized it.
I remember it as being in a school setting. I think our school might have done like I don't think we were part of the actual chain, like how many people actually were, but I think we might have done something symbolically.
Yeah, it was a $10 donation to get a place in line, and 6.5 million people participated. And the money raised was used to help people that were in poverty through local charities in different cities across the country. Phantom of the Frickin' Opera debuted in London's West End and came over here shortly after. Not a fan. Sorry. The Mir space station was launched that year. First case of mad cow disease was identified. That sucks. Again, with the fashion, pretty much the same as the years before. The only difference I would say is you got some scrunchy boots going on for the women and lots of brown belts for the men. Toys, My Buddy and Me, got a kid sister. I hated that creepy doll. And I hated his kid sister. And I hated the kids in the commercials because they were creepy too. But my favorite toy to come out, one of my top favorite toys to come out, was the Thundercats costume set that you could get for $11.99 at Woolworths or Toys R Us. And I had that sucker, let me tell you. Oh yeah, I wanted to be a Thundercat. Let's see, what else? Smoking was banned on all public transportation in the United States. The Pan Am Flight 73 was hijacked at the Karachi International Airport. I remember that very well. Lots of shitty stuff happened, man. Mike Tyson was the youngest heavyweight champion in history that year as well. Let's see. A full survey is carried out in Loch Ness, hoping to find proof that Nessie exists. That was a really big deal. Movies released that year: Top Gun, Crocodile Dundee, Platoon, Karate Kid Part 2, Star Trek The Voyage Home, Aliens, yes, Ruthless People, The Color of Money, and The Money Pit.
The Money Pit. My
Money
God.
Pit. We just
One
watched
of the
that
most underrated comedies ever made.
Totally. That and
Yeah.
The Burbs, both of them. We
Yeah.
watched The Burbs recently too. I don't know why.
If you want to see Tom Hanks before he was famous,
Yeah.
watch The Money Pit.
It's
Well, I
so
guess, I mean, he did Splash before that, but I don't think
He was on
still
Bosom
wasn't Tom
Buddies.
Hanks, though. Yeah.
He was kind of Tom Hanks. Bosom Buddies with, well, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Master of Puppets. Why? So, okay. I said that was the ultimate Metallica album. Matt, you agreed with me, right?
Yes,
Ed
absolutely.
and Jake felt differently.
Mm-hmm.
Ed, explain.
Explain? Okay, I do some splaining. Developmentally in my Metallica journey, I started off with And Justice for All. And I think that may have given it an unfair advantage over Master of Puppets. Just for the fact that I love every single track on that album. Master of Puppets I came to later in life. And while I do think that this is some of their best material on here, that I will not argue against that at all. I totally agree. Master of Puppets, Damage Incorporated, Battery, Thing That Should Not Be. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. It's like top of the mountain for Metallica. But as a whole, I think I just gravitate towards Justice, because to me the whole package, I think, is a little more for me than it gives me more than this does, even though what's here is great, yeah. So I did a lot of thinking about this, and this is the one that I said, well, I could possibly flip, but after I thought about it, I'm like, I would be okay with flipping if that's how I really felt, but that's not how I really feel. So I'm going to stick with my original verdict.
That's always good. All right, Matt, let's save this discussion for when we cover it. I think we should, since it's our ultimate, right? I think that's fair. Both of us. Okay, so the next two albums, I'm going to go through them quickly together. Is Injustice for All, which was released in September of 1988. Also released was Queensryche Operation Mindcrime, Slayer South of Heaven, Megadeth So Far So Good, Testament New Order, and Danzig's self-titled album. So once again, the 80s were just the golden time for metal, in my opinion. So what was happening in 1988? A movie ticket costs $3.50. Man, a stamp was only 24 cents. Let's see. All right, what other events happened? There was a lot of lots of salmonella happening. There was a lot of there's a lot of bad stuff going on this year. Jeez, I'm going through this stuff and I'm like, yeah, that's not good. That's not good. That's really bad. Let's see, that's not good. Let's talk about the good stuff. Talk about technology. Well, I don't know if that's good. Carbon dating is established this year. I was going to say the U.S. stealth bomber is unveiled, but that's not good. Stephen Hawking's published A Brief History of Time, which I have tried to read several times and can follow some of it. It's incredible when you can understand it. I need someone to walk me through that. If anyone wants to volunteer, send me a message. The first transatlantic fiber optic cable is laid and able to carry 40,000 telephone calls simultaneously, which was a big deal back then.
Yep.
Laser eye surgery. It's the first use of laser eye surgery in the U.S. happened in 1988. And fashion. Well, let's see. There's a lot of acid wash jeans happening. There's a lot of bows on clothes for women. There's a lot of clothes are very oversized, giant turtlenecks, very long skirts. You've got a lot of gold and silver shiny shoes. Men's fashion continues to be boring as fuck. There's a lot of belts again, a lot of plaid for the men, and tapered pantaloons.
Otherwise known as the hammer pants.
The hammer pants. We weren't there yet.
Or is that something
Not
else?
Yet.
Okay, I guess that's another year down the road.
These are like the pleated and tapered pants.
Oh yeah.
Okay, toys. You had Footnotes, which was kind of like a replica of the big piano used in Big. That came out. Oh gosh, Okay, we're gonna have to post a picture of this, Matt. Make a note. The Cricket doll came out. If you don't know what the hell the Cricket doll is, look it up. It was $75 freaking dollars in 1988, and it was one of the creepiest dolls that I think has ever come out. You also had the Barbie TV game show set. There was Barbie, and she's on the game show, and there's a cameraman. He's a brown dude behind the camera, if that tells you anything. And yeah, you could have that for $12. But the one again, so Transformers, you've got Transformers, which was awesome. But the one toy I do remember, the minute I saw it, I was like, Tank Attack game. Do you remember that, Ed? Tank Attack. It was awesome.
I remember one of those Atari 2600 game we had called Combat.
No, this was physical, the Tank Attack game. And it had like a little viewfinder. I'll send you a picture. It was amazing. Okay. I thought it was like super like advanced technology at the time. Movies in 1988. Rain Man, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Big, of course, Twins, Crocodile Dundee 2. I'm going to save the best for last. Naked Gun, from the Files of Police Squad, Beetlejuice,
Naked Gun,
Dangerous Liaisons,
Shirley,
A Fish Called Wanda.
That's Airplane.
Who Shirley? And then the ultimate Christmas movie of all time was released in 1988, and that would be Die Hard. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfuckers. So, all right.
We should do a whole episode about just movies. Like, honestly, we talk about movies enough.
I feel like we've done that.
Movies in general. Just take a year and just do the movies in that year. Okay. Yeah.
Next up, we have Metallica's Black Album, which is released in August of 1991. And Sepultura's Arise was released that year. Soundgarden's Bad Motorfinger. Motorhead's 1916. And Skid Row's Slave to the Grind. Just so you know what's happening that year in music. So we also have a lot of stuff going on in 1991, but a lot of changes, I would say, in the world. So can you guys think about any movies that came out in 1991?
91.
Notable movies?
Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs. Yep. Thelma and Louise.
Yeah.
Still one of my favorite movies. City Slickers.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes,
City
JFK.
Slickers. Yes.
Yeah.
The Addams Family, which I'm sorry, I love that movie so much. And Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Yes. Hello. Yes. And who could forget Hot Shots? Me. Could forget.
Charlie Sheen in his heyday.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No thanks.
Yep.
What was it? Tiger Blood or something? What was the thing? Tiger's Blood? Okay, so games in 1991. You had the Super Nintendo Entertainment System for $200. That was a lot of money back then. Let me tell you.
Yeah, adjusted for inflation, that would be probably like $800 now.
Yeah, seriously. It was crazy expensive.
Yep.
So the Super Nintendo Entertainment System features full digital stereo sound and breathtaking graphics with huge characters and over 30,000 different colors to choose from. Your video screen comes to life with dazzling three-dimensional effects. It includes Super Mario World, a game featuring the greatest video game hero in history. Mario can now move in and around and behind objects, and the music will keep you stomping until dawn. It also includes two specially contoured controllers that feature 8 buttons for unprecedented play control.
Now, yeah, if you don't realize how big of a leap that was, Matt, probably until you compare it to like the Atari 2600, going from that to this with your one joystick and one button, and going to the gamepad and the more colorful graphics and everything.
You beat me to it. I was laughing, but at the time it was breathtaking. It was, like you said, breathtaking, and it was breathtaking. Yes. Going from regular NES, the original Nintendo, to Super Nintendo was like, I remember.
Oh, I was talking about the original Nintendo. Oh, you were talking about Super Nintendo?
Super Nintendo. That's what you're talking about, right? 91? Super Nintendo?
Oh, I was talking about the
Yeah,
original NES. How big of a
Yeah.
leap that was.
Well,
But,
that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was also another big leap. But
Yeah.
So the toys for girls and boys continued to be fucking insulting. So if you were a girl, you could have the laundry play center for $50 fucking dollars. If you were a boy, you could have the Columbia airplane. Thanks, motherfuckers. And my favorite game of all time, kidding, came out in 1991. Let me read you the description first. Create new raps by playing rhyming cards to fill in the blanks on the game board. Then rap them out to the rhythm of the electrical beatbox microphone.
oh my
It was the
God.
Vanilla Ice electric rap game. And once again, you could have the Barbie chocolate shop if you were a girl and a powered drill set if you were a boy. Oh, yay. So, all right. So for most of us, I think we all agree, and you should agree, otherwise you're just wrong, that the Black Album is really the end, and that's pushing it a bit even for me, of classic Metallica. After the Black Album, that's it. There's no more classic Metallica. It is considered contemporary Metallica. And I recognize, for any of you out there that want to argue that contemporary Metallica has been around longer than the classic Metallica, I really don't give a toss. So all of this being said, just to kind of state our case and set you up for the next episode, this is what we will be doing for the next several shows. We'll be doing deep dives into these albums, talking about who the band was at the time, and going up against ourselves from previous episodes. We are also going to cover the documentary Cliff 'Em All. If you have not seen it yet, I would say in the next couple of weeks, definitely watch it so you know what the hell we're talking about when we cover that on the show. And like I said, we will most likely have a very special guest with us. But until then, I think that's it. I think it's time to go and have another glass of whiskey. So I'm going to play us out with some music for a minute.
There's an evil feeling in our brains, but it's nothing new. You know what drives us insane. Running on our way out, you will be dying 1,000 deaths. Running on our way out, you will be dying 1,000 deaths. Searching, seek and destroy. Searching.
All right, so I played that twice because we had to throw out that album in the first series, and it's one of my favorite Metallica songs. So, goddamn it, I was going to play it again. So that's it. That's all I've got for tonight, and yeah, Matt, take it away.
All right, guys, this is where we're going, season 3. So buckle up; it should be a lot of fun. Follow us on Instagram, of course, at Metal Rock Whiskey. You can find us on Twitter at Metal Whiskey. We have revived the Facebook group, a little bit dormant the last few months, but that's putting it very mildly. But it is now Metal Rock and Whiskey on Facebook. Check it out. Ask to join. We will accept you. Follow and subscribe also on YouTube. You guys are watching us right now. If you can, hit that thumbs up. It really does help. Every thumbs up helps. Turn on that bell that you see right below us here. Click it to get notified every time we upload a new video. Anything that we put on the channel, you will get notified of it if you just click that bell. So make sure you do that. Of course, you can find us all on Instagram individually. You can find me, as you see there on your screen. For the people listening on iTunes or Captivate, it is at The Whiskey Obsessor. That is Whiskey Save the E. Ed.
And they can find me and hanging out on Instagram at Bourbon Geek.
And you can find me at Sailor Retro on Instagram and Twitter, and Sailor Guevara on Facebook.
And hey, listeners, and viewers. If you love us or even just like us, please, we ask you hit that subscribe button and give us a review because it really does matter to us. And of course, tune in for the next episode of Metal Rock and Whiskey.
And on that note, fuck you, 2020. We're out.
Bye.
Bye.
Later, everyone.